You are now listening to Carlie's Couch.
I'm Carlie.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy.
In this episode of Carlie's Couch, we explore the sneaky things we do that are really signs for insecurity.
Oh, happy Monday, y'all.
Welcome to Carlie's Couch. Thanks for joining us once again. Thank you for all the reviews, 5 stars. If you have not, please leave a review. Leave 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Go on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. You should be watching anyway because watching it might be more fun for you. I'm a listener to podcasts myself, though, so I get it. As long as you review or rate somewhere.
Yeah, we appreciate you. So we're going to hop right on into the episode this week.
Yeah, this week I went to see Piece by Piece, which is Pharrell Williams' Lego movie, which is essentially like a biopic of his life. And I thought it was so cute and it was so interesting. And at the end of it, because this was like a premiere where they were live streaming to different theaters at the same time. And so at the time he was in New York at one of the theaters. And afterwards on the screens we were watching on from LA, they projected a guy moderating and speaking with Pharrell, as well as the, I want to say director, could have been the director or producer of the movie. And, you know, if you know Pharrell Williams now, he's very much like all humility, everything. And you can tell as he's gotten older, like he's gotten to a more like peaceful kind of being state of living and going through life. And one of the things that he was talking about afterwards, and the main, apparently, main message that he had for everybody was that he kept bringing up the idea that, you know, the only thing holding you back is yourself, and that essentially if you can just break through your insecurities, then there's like nothing that can stop you from whatever it is you're doing. And so his main message was breaking your insecurities. And so I went home and then I was thinking about it and I was like, yeah, that sounded really cool. But then I was like, well, but what are your insecurities? And it made me think about, like, how do you figure out what they are exactly? What things that you're insecure about? Because a lot of things that I have recognized over time, you know, you recognize it and then you can think about or work on how to fix it. But in general, I'm like, I'm sure I have insecurities, but like, how would I know what they are exactly? And so that took me to like Googling and, you know, trying to do some stuff. But I recognized that most of my Googles would turn up articles that's like, you know, breaking free of your insecurities or things to do, which all sounded the same, but not necessarily like, how do you determine what they are? And for me, that was very different because I was like, well, I feel like if I knew what they are, then I could catch them more easily. So anyway, that took me on a little discovery. And I came across an article where the way that they framed their information was, these are signs of things you may be doing that point to insecurities. And for me, that's much more helpful because if you're saying, oh, you might be doing this, that, and I'm like, I do that. And then I could think about, in what settings do I do those things? And like, oh, what does that mean I am hiding from in that moment? And that actually helped me think about what things could be. All of that summary to say that in this episode, then we pulled some of the different ones. It's not all of them, but just some of the different ones, because in speaking about each one, you may also be like, oh yeah, I do kind of do that. Oh, what does that mean about me? And in some of these, you might do it and it doesn't really mean anything. But for many of us, there are lots of signs that we're insecure, and insecurity can be across so many different spaces and stages that it may help you to actually start learning something about yourself.
And the importance of learning these insecurities is because they're holding us back from achieving things. Because you said Pharrell's main thing was like about breaking through them.
Yeah, and so each of these different instances or things we do, if now I know like, I'm using this to deflect from X, now I can recognize what I could do to not do that thing. I'm just trying not to go ahead to the things, but let's start with the first one then, and we'll do it. Let's say what the thing is, break down what we're saying, and then we can each kind of talk about like, all right, how does that reflect in our own lives and with our own security? So the first one says, you act like Mary Poppins, practically perfect in every way. And so with that thing, it's like, hey, are you are you very intent on showcasing yourself as perfect? Are you presenting, which in a sense is a false sense of perfection because you're not?
Nobody is.
And are you hypersensitive to criticisms? So you have this feeling where you need to be perfect and you want people to see you as perfect. For me, that's an obvious insecurity. And then when I see that, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely have that. I hate for people to think anything, negative about me. And even though I know I'm not perfect and I know you can't be perfect, at the same time, I definitely have a desire for people to see me and feel like I have it all together. And the insecurity in that is, okay, so you're not, you are insecure about who you really are because you're putting forward a false front. And so you're not giving people a chance to know who you are. You probably are ashamed of who you really are. And that's why you're not showing it, yada, yada, yada. And so from reading about that makes you think, okay, so how can I present a more real sense of who I am? Which in a convo with the therapist many years ago, one of the things she told me is like, hey, embrace being messy. And so sometimes, you can talk about something messy that you're going through or that's happened, etc. And that can be a way to feel more comfortable being yourself instead of being so worried and tight about what other people are thinking.
Very succinct and beautiful. Yeah, I think that I definitely have that, like, feeling like I have to be perfect to be loved or to be worthy. And used to have issues like maybe sharing or being vulnerable about things because I didn't want, people not to love me because I'm not perfect, but also none of us are perfect. And so that's why I say that. And so I would say for me, one of the things, so I love practice being messy. Also just practice being more vulnerable and being real, even if it is like with people that you trust and just telling them how you're really feeling. Or if you are having a tough day, don't always lie. Don't always have a little mask up because then nobody can get in and you're fencing yourself off from love, but also people who might be able to help you, might be able to support you, to love on you, to show you how worthy you are in that moment.
And you're even blocking yourself from accepting and moving through emotions, which is really the biggest thing. Honestly, it's almost like you're practicing denial of how you feel and what you're thinking and what you're going through. And that's a terrible thing to do.
Yep.
Carlie, have you ever in situations led with sexuality?
For sure.
Or found yourself leaning into sexuality?
Absolutely. Younger Carlie thought that was something I had to do to be worthy to feel loved. And I recognized that I was looking at attention as love because I thought, so I don't know if it's necessary. It's definitely rooted in insecurity, but also my understanding of love was very different. And I thought sexual attention was love, which it's not, just in case you're still in that space. So yeah, a lot of people use sexuality as a trade. Like if they offer sex, then they'll get love. Then people want to be with them, want to spend time. I think another interesting thing, if you're thinking about like sexuality, thinking about like if you're overdoing anything for people to be close to you, like offering like money, if you're always paying for stuff and doing things and that just so people will be there, then it's probably a sign of insecurity.
And leading with sexuality, which just to clarify, is not like just saying sex, but you want to be the sex person. You like to flirt a lot. You want to send pictures or do things that you think will make people like you or want to be around you and comfortable. It also is a form of hiding because it's like instead of us actually dating or instead of me actually having a real conversation with you, you're kind of hiding yourself and hiding the realness and putting this up in the front. And so in a sense, we could be using that as, again, it's showing an insecurity in that you're hiding the real you and that you are presenting what you think matters or what will get you attention, love, etc. from somebody else.
I also think that this is probably a big one for men too, like to lead with sex and all of these other things instead of opening up to people.
Yeah, and I definitely have done that, and I still do it now. Don't catch me on ovulation week. I'm all over the place. It kind of can feel like a game a little bit. And so to that degree, like definitely be careful about, all right, what is really what I want and what is what I'm doing to fill some gap or hole or void or whatever. And also pay attention to, well, what is your reputation or what people think about you looking like, and even in your circles and stuff. Because I've had somebody say something to me and I was like, I wonder why they felt comfortable saying that. And then I felt some kind of way, but then later I realized like maybe they view me as like, oh, I'm so open about X, Y, Z or whatever that like that's a thing, but it's not quite. And so let me make sure I'm paying more attention to what I'm putting out there and putting forward that's an actual well-rounded or accurate view. And sometimes you might be over-sexualizing yourself, and then you'll get mad when people want to talk about it. So pay attention to that as well.
That's a good catch.
Yeah, I was like, maybe I need to stop. A third sneaky sign that you are insecure is that you are a disagreement machine. And I do this too. So this is something we often see on Twitter or online. And what that looks like is if somebody says, man, oranges are 20 cents more expensive now.
Why you hate apples?
Yeah, and then somebody want to say, okay, well, apples is 10 cents, or, well, oranges aren't 20 cents more here where I'm at, or, like, you just have to say something, and it's like, you're not seeing what the person's talking about for real. You're skipping over the whole actual point. You're always trying to point out that you're smart because you're pointing out a flaw, or you have to point out stuff because that makes you feel good. I would do this a lot in relationships, or have, where it's like, all I saw was like, yeah, you don't close the cupboard doors when you're done. You're not doing this. You laying on the couch, playing video games a lot. Blah, blah, blah. Like, it's easy to come up with things all the time because that makes you feel better about yourself.
I'm about to say that's that reticular activating system too. Whenever you're feeling lack and then you start projecting on other people. So essentially always pointing out flaws and being overly critical is also you projecting how you feel about yourself onto other people and being very harsh. Because I also see this in like, if like I make a mistake, for example, I might see it as, oh, it's not a character flaw. I just messed up one time. But somebody does the same thing to me and all of a sudden I'm judging them because that's who they are as a person. But we don't want to be judged like that. So if you find yourself in that little sticky situation, then that's probably because you have a bit of an insecurity there.
Yeah. I've done better over the years too of like catching myself and being like, all right, this is just a human. And they're fine. And I think it's okay also to be like in relationship wise, right? There are really a lot of things. It's like, damn, I'm pointing out so much stuff. Actually, I don't like this person. And maybe I need to actually admit that I don't like the person like that. And then move accordingly from there. Because the insecurity will also point out things and then let you be there and stay there to continue to feel good about yourself. Or you feeling like you're somebody's savior, or feeling like quite a few different things. And so with all of this and the activity you make, like focus on like, okay, what is really bothering me? And a lot of times it's your own insecurity.
Yeah, facing yourself is the biggest part in all of this. The next one is you become a shrinking violet. And so, think about in uncomfortable situations, do you shut down? Do you shrink? Do you close off your body language? Do you just stop talking? Do you like completely just shrink?
I do that a lot too. I when I go to parties or if I go to things and then that time you're just like, I gotta go to the bathroom, or you gotta go somewhere and sit down for a second, or the point where it's like your battery shuts down and you just gotta like look at your phone, or you just like, I want to be at home. I think that shows an obvious insecurity as well. Where we could be insecure in social settings, again, because being seen or not feeling the best about yourself or whatever, people liking you and caring about that. And so we can make ourselves small. And that's something you can do physically by like really like kind of getting away, as well as just by like mentally tapping out. So consider and think about if that's something that you find yourself doing in certain situations. I
think another common example of that maybe is also if you do something really well and people are applauding you or celebrating you for it, or telling you, man, you look so great today. I don't look, I look terrible. Or you rejected and pushed. Like that's another time when you could be shrinking when you should be receiving.
That's a good other side of that as well. Another thing you may be doing, sneaky sign that you are insecure, is not being able to maintain eye contact. One of the things about that is that insecure people fear transparency and being seen, which is reflective of some of the other examples we've already used. And one of the easiest ways to not be seen is not looking at people when you talk to them. I noticed that I used to do this a lot. I'm way better now. I love like looking at people when I speak to them. And I also now I have this new thing that I recognize too. I'm like, I do not want to walk outside without shades on. And I was like, I don't want people to see me seeing them. I don't want people to see me. And you know how like with kids, you feel like if you can't see them, they can't see you. It makes it feel easier for me to walk around with my eyes covered. And so you can think about if you have that issue when you're speaking with people, do you have an issue looking at them and just opening up and because sometimes it makes you feel emotions. When people are looking right in your eyes, it sometimes can feel kind of weird, in a good or a bad way. And so that's definitely one of the things that I could say you can easily practice or challenge yourself this week to look at somebody and then consider, oh, was that hard? Or, okay, that was easy or what? Because it might be a reflection of an insecurity.
Oh, and there's 2 opportunities. So one cool story and then an opportunity. If you're with your partner, you could do eye gazing. And so it's where y'all are sitting facing each other and not saying anything, just looking in each other's eyes. It is very intimate, like staring straight into somebody's eyeballs. They say that I think it's the left eyeball, if you're staring at somebody, is like the window to their soul whenever you're talking. And so maybe like play with that, or whenever you are talking to people, looking back and forth. But whenever we did horse therapy, it's big about energy. Like horses, hearts are as big as soccer balls, and every person who is alive and breathing has an electromagnetic field that goes around them. They say the more open your heart is, the bigger your energy field is, and that people can feel it, and that because horses' hearts are so big, they really feel energy. And so we did an exercise where we like faced each other and we were staring deep into each other's eyes, and like you watch the person and then slowly like maybe one hand will start to move, and you really do kind of start to feel their energy. But afterwards, like 2 people there started bawling. The girl and I, because I was working with one of the ladies, because it was all people we don't know, the lady who worked at the place, and like I started tearing up. Like it is such an intimate, like cool experience to challenge yourself like that.
Yeah, you'll definitely recognize there's a lot to feel when you are open just in looking at somebody and allowing somebody to look at you.
To see and be seen. This next one is something that I have struggled with when it comes to my insecurity. My insecurity journey is you are a clinging vine. You need constant reassurance, phone calls, text messages, emails. You needed people to tell you that they love you all the time. You might be jealous of your friends having really close relationships, or of your partner having friends, or of your family spending time together without you. Like any time that you're looking at things and you're not involved, like automatically, like you feel hurt or feel left out or taking it personal, that's a huge sign of insecurity. And a lot, like a big space, big opportunity for healing. It doesn't have to be a bad thing. This is a huge opportunity to heal and to feel more complete and whole.
Yes, and folks who deal with that tend to be controlling in relationships and are very afraid of loss. And so to see that their friends or their loved one or whoever is doing other things without them or not including them or whatever, they just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm being abandoned. And so that's an insecurity in itself as well.
And that's not to say to ask for affirmation is an insecurity, because I do think it's nice to have affirmation for people sometimes. But if it's the only thing that makes you feel good is external affirmation, then that is a huge insecurity, because you should be able to affirm yourself.
The next sneaky sign of insecurity, this is one that I actually do a lot too, is you talk a lot except when you don't. So if you notice that sometimes you're like super, super chatty and then other times you're like super quiet, think about why that may be. That probably means you're more self-focused than connection-focused. So when you are super chatty, it's for you. It's something that you need, a reflection of insecurity, and that maybe you're like blabbering because you need somebody to act a certain way or think a certain thing. But then oftentimes, like, you're super quiet, and like if you don't actually want to connect with other people, you're only showing up when you need something. And so you're not necessarily showing up for the connection and relationship that's in front of you. And so also for some folks like this, you may not pick up on certain cues of that you're talking too much or not listening to somebody else. And it's very much a little bit one-sided.
That's a really interesting one. I'm like, oh, I need to ponder some of these. I hope y'all are pondering this week. Another sneaky sign of insecurity is you overcompensate or overdo it. It's a defense mechanism, and it's to regain control of your self-image, and also to deflect, like maybe being really defensive, maybe being very attention-seeking with people. Something else I can think about are, like, if you're insanely competitive, like you might be hinging your self-worth on your ability to win or dominate other people and making yourself feel superior because really deep down you feel less than.
Mm-hmm. And I think we've all had moments where we've caught ourselves being like, I'm like doing way too much. And that usually leads to like resentments as well. And times where other people around you, you're like, I could tell they really want something out of me. I feel like that a lot, where I could tell like, oh, they really want to be complimented on something, or they're really like trying to get you to open up about something, or they want to tell you about something. And other people kind of doing a lot and overdoing it because they need something as well. So think about how in certain places you may be doing the most and what you're trying to cover up, whether it's, oh, I'm perfect or XYZ. But in that case, you're probably not allowing the real you to be seen.
It's interesting because did you ever play Sims growing up?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I used to love Sims. Shout out to all of y'all. Mm-hmm. But they interact. So part of a Sim's health is them talking to other people. And when they're talking, you'll see a plus sign if they're having a good thing over both their heads. It might be a plus and a negative, or negative if they're angry. But it just like makes me think about like in relationships too, like when people are like, oh, da da da, and the people are like negative and not receiving it, and not
you gotta have the right
cues.
Balance of like give and take and understanding like what's going on in this moment.
Reciprocal energy flow is really important. The last sign, sneaky sign that you might be insecure. I kind of string these things together because they're related to me, or related, not related to me like my cousin. But you can't be happy for other people. I feel like that's a huge sign, and I think that leads to you feeling like there's not enough and taking it personal. Like, why not me? Or that should have been for me, or I work hard. Why haven't I gotten that? Or why don't I deal with that? So essentially what it is you're taking everything personally.
Yeah. And there's so many ways in which a person is not allowing themselves to be happy. That's a couple of them. But overall, it does come to a point where it's like, well, what am I doing? And what needs to change with your mindset so that you don't take an automatic like negative view of everything around you, because there is so much beauty, and it just, why not just live in a state where you are assuming the best in cases until you need to do otherwise. So that's 9 ways that we've talked about that now you can sit back and think like, okay, I do that. I don't really do that. I do this and that and that. And so now that you have some actual starters, because it took me so long to even find something like this, now that you have a starter that might show at what points and in what situations you may be insecure, now you can think about how to combat them. So the first thing, of course, is self-awareness. And now you can think about in some of these situations, well, how do I behave? What am I doing or not doing? And then trying to think about, where did that come from? Where did I learn that? Where did I learn that I need to put my sexuality forward in order to receive love? Or where did I learn that I have to keep things back and I can't look at people when I talk to them? So you can now go on this path of self-discovery.
And that self-discovery and reflection gets you down to the roots. And then you can start to heal those, but you have to be able to identify and own them first. And it should be exciting. Like, oh, wow, I have all this space to heal. I can feel happier. I can feel more loved. I can be myself in relationships. And then whenever you get to that place, you can start to practice positive self-talk. So, man, I was so stupid. Why didn't I open up more? You could just be like, okay, next time I'm going to challenge myself. Wow, I was a little vulnerable today. Go me, and start to cheer yourself on and practice those positive affirmations. Like, I am so loved. People love spending time with me. My friends value me so much. If you do notice, that's where your insecurities are, and start to affirm yourself.
Mm-hmm. And definitely check out therapy if you haven't, because if you go into session and now you've already done a little bit of work of self-discovery, they are trained professionals who are really good at helping you to understand what this does mean for you, where it might stem from, how you can practice and maneuver into different habits. And so a therapist is just a really good way to quickly kind of move through and get right to it once you kind of have an idea of something that you want to check for or work on.
And working on is the last part. So having a growth mindset. So instead of beating yourself up, because that's not going to help get you anywhere, looking at all of these insecurities as signs of places that you can heal, opportunities to grow. And each and every time you show up, even if it's not your best self or the way you want to, it can just get a little bit better and better. And then life starts to become more full and beautiful and fun and authentic.
Yes, absolutely. So this week, reflect on your actions and see if you can pinpoint places where you are insecure that you never thought about before. Let us know, carliescouch.com, comments everywhere.
Share with a friend.
Yes, share with a friend, share with family, share with whoever, and let us know what you think about this episode. We will see you next week.
Bye.